Professor of Political Science at American University. Professor Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us on this program. Are you surprised that these elections are not going ahead, or was this something that was expected to happen?
Well, when I first heard the date, I think last June, my first thought was it won't happen on that day. It'll probably be a few weeks later, because holding elections, just from a technical point of view in Libya, are difficult to do. And there are so many institutions and so many levers to pull in order to get the elections together. There are so many things that could go wrong. That was very likely to happen. We knew these elections weren't going to take place 11 days ago because the electoral law mandates 2 weeks of campaigning. So when we didn't have a candidate list and we didn't have a chance to campaign for 2 weeks, it was definitely going to be delayed. The only reason they haven't canceled the elections yet and made the announcement is because Stephanie Williams hasn't gotten a date from all the stakeholders in the election. As you know, the UN envoy resigned suddenly and unexpectedly a month ago. And it's very hard to name these UN envoys. So they put the former American acting envoy back in as a special advisor to the Secretary General. And she's been given the task of making these negotiations very, very quickly. So she's been doing the shuttle diplomacy within Libya, and hopefully we'll have an announcement within the next day or two.
So what does this now mean for Libya, the peace process there? Because nobody wants to see a return to civil war, but there have been reports that there's a lot of armed groups gathering in Tripoli, which is raising fears that there may be more violence.
I'm so glad you asked the question that way, because we often say, well, will the elections cause violence? But that's the wrong question to ask. The first part of your question was the right way, because the real issue here is we're coming out of 6 years of war, and all the institutions are broke down and they're not talking to each other. And then we have announcements month after month saying this is wrong, that is wrong, I don't agree. But these are institutions that no longer have any legitimacy because they picked one side of the war or the other. And so the only organizations, the only institutions with legitimacy around the elections in Libya right now is the GNU, which was handpicked. The people that named it were handpicked by the UN, and Stephanie Williams herself. And all of the other institutions are going to make a lot of noise that sometimes sounds quite dire. Now, the militias are all over the place. But, the militias are the ones who are both protecting the election and could disrupt the election. But the way to think of it is about 90% of the militias want these elections to take place and will protect the polling sites. The question mark is, what are the other 10% of militia spoilers going to do? And there's plenty of opportunities for clashes at polling stations and other types of actions that would be disruptive.
Yeah, there's still so many questions that remain, and Libya being quite a complicated political situation. The UN's, of course, played a very big role in trying to bring about peace, but what about other foreign players in that country? What's their role here, and how will they be viewing this delay in the elections?
So far, so good. So if you compare the situation to, say, Sudan or Ethiopia or Yemen or Syria, where the UN process has failed more than succeeded, in Libya it succeeded. We had this Berlin process, 2 rounds, UN resolutions, Americans, Russians, and Chinese agreeing. Those that have been breaking the arms embargo may still be breaking it to some degree, but they're supporting the political process. So you had Turkey getting along with Egypt in ways they hadn't before, particularly over this issue. You had the Emirates and Qatar getting along over the issue. Now, they all have interests and they're all backing different parties, and they would like to see the elections break in their favor. But it's a lot better when foreign patrons of the Libyan proxies are thinking more about election results rather than who's going to kill who.
Professor William Lawrence, always great to get your analysis. Thank you so much.